I will start by giving you my opinion that I don't believe they are conservationists. They normally call themselves animal welfare groups. Conservationists will not take a stance that is not a conservation stance. Now, the calling for total banning has been there for quite some time. In fact, the elephant species at some point, even for the Southern African region, was listed in Appendix 1, which pretty much restricted any trade. But because of the growing populations, they were then uplifted to Appendix 2, which allowed for one-off sales which will be approved by CITES from time to time, which is where we still find ourselves in. However, again, we find that mainly the NGOs under this animal welfare category, and some of the countries, particularly the West, and indeed some of the African countries, have also joined in trying to curtail the ability by the countries in the Southern African region to plow back into conservation benefits that are coming from the wildlife resource. As we have also highlighted, there is the growing human-wildlife conflict, and if we do not address this, the consequences are going to be quite catastrophic. Now, our position as we are going into CITES, maybe starting with the conference, is that we want a united Africa. It is disheartening to find Africa so divided in an international platform. You will never find EU divided. All 26 countries, it's one vote giving you 26 votes. Why can't Africa exchange notes? Let's appreciate each other's positions and we emerge with one voice. This is essentially what this conference is about. Zimbabwe has taken lead in elephant dialogue. You will recall that the president once hosted the Elephant Summit in Kasane, and he took the matter again to AU, trying to rally the African Union behind the plight of the elephants. You will recall, if you have a memory of recent history, there is a country in Africa where at one point elephant populations grew to a level that was unsustainable, and in a very short space of time, they lost significant numbers of elephants. And we are seeing the reality that this will happen in the Southern African region unless drastic measures are taken. So we are clear that we are not going to CITES to beg them. We are going to CITES to present our strong position, a position which we are willing to defend, even if it means being outside CITES. We are there in CITES to share our success stories for the benefit of those countries who want to also experience the successes in conservation that we have experienced, not to be lectured on how we conserve our wildlife. The trade in ivory, again, is another sticky issue which we want cleared, because we believe that unless CITES will be in a position to finance conservation in these countries, then the wildlife should be able to finance itself. We should be able to benefit from the wildlife resource and we plow it back to conservation. So the question of culling is always an interesting one. The reality as it stands is that our populations are growing at a rate between 5 and 8% per annum. So because the populations are growing at a growing rate or at a faster rate, we have what we call exponential growth of our populations. But again, all possibilities of us selling live elephants to those who want to populate their areas have been cut under CITES. They've introduced an amendment to the current CITES provisions, which says we can only sell to appropriate and acceptable destinations. Literally meaning we can only sell to the African countries, most of whom have these elephants in abundance. So we're growing populations. We will continue to defend our conservation, but when we have a chance to generate revenues to support conservation, CITES comes and they close that window. What do? We now are faced with a situation where in the next 5 years, Wange National Park will see significant casualties of our elephants because there simply is no enough habitat. But the sad reality is that the elephants might die last. The smaller animals will be the first to die because now it becomes the survival of the biggest or the fittest. We need to manage the populations, and we are left with limited choices. If this CITES is not decisive on this critical matter, we will be left with no choice than to either go the current way or maybe consider engaging our affairs outside CITES.